We're following breaking news. Israel's military says ground forces are expanding their activity today in Gaza. A spokesperson for the IDF says aerial attacks have been targeting Hamas tunnels and other militant-controlled locations. Israel has already amassed hundreds of thousands of troops along the border with Gaza. CBS News foreign correspondent Rami Inocencio joins us now from Tel Aviv, Israel. Rami, tell us exactly what are you hearing about this expansion?
Meg, hi there. Yes, Israel's military spokesperson just in the past hour or so did confirm that Israel's defense forces are expanding operations tonight. In the past 3-4 hours or so, we have been seeing reports of more and more bombings happening along the Gaza Strip, specifically along the northwest stretch of the Gaza Strip. This is being, they've also called on all residents of Gaza City to move south. Here, Israel's local media, as well as regional media, have been calling this unprecedented attacks on the Gaza Strip. And looking back over the past few days, this actually builds on the past 2 days of nighttime, early morning raids that Israel's defense forces have been engaging in the northern Gaza Strip. From Wednesday to Thursday, we saw a column of tanks that demolished barricades along the strip. And then between Thursday and Friday overnight, something along the order of about 250 targets were hit, according to Israel's defense forces. Now, Hamas, for their part, says that all communications, all phone lines, all internet is out in the Gaza Strip. The Ministry of Health has said that at least 30 people have been killed. Now, one important note, the question here, is the incursion, is the invasion happening now? Are we seeing the start of it? Israel's defense forces said that the incursion happening tonight is just one that is continuously striking the Gaza Strip as part of its efforts against the Hamas terror organization. But Meg, we were just there a few hours ago. We may have seen the start of this volley about 3 p.m., 4 p.m. local time. We saw and heard explosions coming from Israeli warplanes flying overhead. We heard the drones flying over us, and we also heard artillery just in the hills beyond us targeting the Gaza Strip, the northern Gaza Strip. From that, a few seconds really later, we saw large plumes of smoke start to billow out from the strip. So potentially, we at least saw this expanding, this extension of the ground invasion.
Yeah, it's fascinating because it's hard to tell. As you mentioned, this is an expansion, but do we know and will we know when they intend to start the ground invasion? And that is something that everyone is going to be looking at. Rami, you were just there. What can you tell us in terms of once a ground invasion starts, what they're going to be facing inside Gaza?
Sure. If or when the ground invasion happens, the biggest challenge for Israel's defense forces is going to be the vast labyrinth maze of tunnels underneath Gaza. By some estimates, no one really knows, at least publicly for sure, but more than 300 miles of tunnels are below the Gaza Strip. And these aren't just tunnels. They have been described as an underground city that also houses an unknown number, hundreds, thousands of Hamas militants. Here in Israel, they call them Hamas terrorists. And the idea here is that if and when Israel's defense forces come into the strip, they will be, they could be booby-trapped. They could be surprised by fighters coming out from any number of shafts that are hidden. Israel is trying to target the shafts that it knows, but no one really knows how many shafts there are that these Hamas fighters, these Hamas militants could come out of. So it is going to be a guerrilla warfare happening in the Gaza Strip if and when that happens.
Rami, how could this change the trajectory of the war at this point?
Changing the trajectory of this war. Right now, I feel that this is the tipping point, as it were, at least in the past 3 weeks, of whether this will evolve into something bigger or whether this is as what the Israeli Defense Forces say is just the continuous strikes on the Gaza Strip that we have been seeing over the past few days. I think over the next few hours, over the next day, we'll see what comes of this expanded ground invasion. But we do know that the IDF has been targeting those tunnels and infrastructure and taking down barricades. We've also seen with our own eyes, or I should actually walk that back, we haven't seen the tanks that we saw over the past few weeks. And I say it this way because those tanks, from what we understand, what we gather, appear to not have moved back from the front, but likely have moved forward closer towards the Gaza Strip. We were maybe about 2 miles from the border with the Gaza Strip. From there, we couldn't see, at least across the region that we drove, any tanks there. Where there had been tanks 1 week ago, 2 weeks ago, we spoke with one soldier and we asked him if we could carry on further to try to look for them. And he said, with a little bit of a wink, a little bit of a nod, he said, the point for these tanks is for you and for anyone else to not know where they are.
Rami, the last time we talked, you mentioned that there have been new calls for a ceasefire. I think it was the UN saying that calling this an unprecedented avalanche of human suffering. When we think about everything that's going on in Gaza and in Israel, it's hard to wrap your head around how much more this is going to do to so many innocent people on both sides.
Absolutely. And it's important to point out that while Israel is targeting Hamas, its leaders, the network, the militants, the terrorists that it calls, the collateral tragic loss is, it can take your breath away, frankly, when you see the photos and the videos of people dying, children who are lifeless. And 3 weeks ago, these people were alive. And 3 weeks now, these several thousand people are now dead. Regardless of whether you're on the side of Israel, or the side of Hamas, or the side of the Palestinian territories, these people, many will say, many will agree with me, died needlessly. And it's a tragedy. And the UN Secretary General said this, as you said, is an avalanche of humanitarian disaster. He's calling on supplies to be let in, to stop this needless loss of life that, as you've said, as we know, we don't know how long it's going to continue.
Very emotional, and we appreciate that, Rami. I want to bring in CBS News contributor Robert Berger now. Robert, what are you hearing?
Well, the Army just put out a very short statement saying that it's planning to expand ground activity in the Gaza Strip. What we know, they didn't really say much more than that. But in the past couple of nights, the Israeli army has been going in on the ground in what I would call limited incursions, ground operations, probing, I would say, with a number of tanks, armored personnel carriers, and even some infantry. And now they're saying that they're going to expand that. I don't think this is the big ground assault that everyone's been talking about, but this is the first time the Army has actually announced in advance that it's expanding its ground activity. By way of background, the Israelis have called up 360,000 reservists, and there are hundreds of tanks and armored personnel carriers massed on the border. So I think we're going to see this gradual expanding of the ground operations.
Robert, I want to get your take on the timing of this announcement. This is happening on a Friday night, Shabbat, for people of Jewish religion. Does that make this more surprising? That is supposed to be their day of rest.
Well, you know, the element of surprise is part of all of this. It is somewhat surprising, being the Sabbath. And, you know, actually, it was already 10 days ago that we thought that this operation the ground offensive might be imminent. Then President Joe Biden came on a Wednesday, and that put it off. And we do know that the U.S. has been urging Israel to hold off on the ground offensive to try and get those. There are around 230 hostages being held in Gaza. So the U.S. has been urging Israel to hold off on this ground assault. But I think the Israelis now are adopting a gradual approach, which is stepping up the pressure on Hamas while trying to negotiate that release of hostages.
And Robert, talk to us about the strategy the Israeli military has been pursuing and how that plays into it.
Well, what we've seen since the beginning of this war 3 weeks ago, since that huge Hamas attack on Israel, is major air offensive, unlike what we've ever seen in Gaza before. Airstrikes that have pretty much leveled large parts of Gaza. You have about 1 million Palestinians who've moved from northern Gaza to the south. That's because Israel believes most of Hamas's infrastructure is in the northern part, including Gaza City. And that they're trying to, and they've laid total siege to the territory. No food, or let's say very little food. There have been some trucks going in, but very little food, water, and medicine coming in. And the idea is to pressure Hamas, which, by the way, is hiding out in underground tunnels, a huge network of tunnels there, try to pressure them to give up these hostages.
Robert, can you just kind of paint a picture for us of those underground tunnels? What does that look like, and how does that play into this expansion?
You know, there's Gaza above ground, which we've all seen the massive airstrikes that have been going on and leveling these buildings and apartments. By the way, which Israel says that Hamas has its infrastructure and its operations inside civilian buildings, but the tunnel network is huge. The Israeli military has labeled it the Metro. And according to Israeli and other sources, there's 300 miles worth of tunnels underground. And that's what makes this whole thing extremely complicated. In addition to the fact that you have 229 or 230 hostages or so in Gaza, they're being held in these underground tunnels, which are very hard to access. They're obviously booby-trapped. They're well armed, and it's going to be very difficult for the Israelis to get to those tunnels. But the Army has mentioned that that's one of the next objectives, is to start targeting that tunnel system.
We know that Hamas has just released a statement. I want to bring back in Ramy Inocencio to give us the latest on that. Ramy?
Yes, Meg. I'm just seeing now here that the political office of Hamas is trying to issue a call to arms for more Palestinians to rise up. The quote here is, "This is the time to carry your weapons." This is a speech apparently to Palestinians in the West Bank. Now, this is, of course, different from the Palestinians living along the Gaza Strip. He says that this is the time to carry your weapons, whatever the type of the weapon you have. There's no time to waste. They're calling what's happening along the Gaza Strip a genocide from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So this apparently in response to this unprecedented bombardment of the Gaza Strip over the past 3 or 4 hours, has encouraged, has pushed at least some in the Hamas leadership to issue this call to arms for a wider war to involve all Palestinians across the region.
It certainly sounds like things are intensifying. Robert, we know that Gaza is in the midst of this humanitarian crisis. To what extent will this make things even worse?
Yeah, this is the big dilemma in every Gaza war. This, by the way, is already the 5th Gaza war in the past 15 years or so. And this has always been the problem, that because Hamas is embedded in a huge civilian population, more than 2 million people in a very small territory, maybe the size of Washington, D.C. or so, you've got more than 2 million people. So whenever these crises happen, the civilian population gets pretty much caught in the middle between the warring parties, which would be Israel and Hamas. And this is, according to the UN, it's a growing humanitarian catastrophe. A lot of hospitals have already closed. I would add, by the way, that just today the Army spokesman gave a briefing to foreign journalists, saying that Hamas has major headquarters under one of the biggest hospitals in Gaza City, a huge underground network. And that, of course, makes it very difficult for Israel to target. And they purposely, according to the Israelis, put these civilian, these humanitarian operations, such as hospitals, Hamas deliberately builds under them. That's, again, according to the Israeli military. Hamas denies it. But you do have this looming humanitarian crisis of lack of food, water, medicine, and a million people already displaced. So it makes the war on the ground much more difficult.